I'm standing inside Smithfield Saloon located in the heart of Red Dead Redemption 2, and right behind me sits a furnace. You may think this furnace looks perfectly normal, but in fact, this is a severe safety violation. Check out the main pipe. It snakes up the beam and moves all the way towards the side wall, and when you look at the same spot on the outside of the building, there's no exhaust vent. That means this furnace is exhausting its toxic fumes, like carbon monoxide, directly into the wall. This causes backdraft that leaks through the pipe joints and out onto the patrons and employees. And the reason we know this is a safety violation is because of the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, better known as OSHA. They have hundreds of rules and regulations available online that all employers must follow to ensure employee safety. And if we take a gander at 1910.94, subsection A, exhaust ventilation system, a system for removing contaminated air from a space. And if we look at item 6 of the same subsection, clean air, air of such purity that it will not cause harm or discomfort to an individual if it is inhaled for extended periods of time. I don't know about you guys, but inhaling copious amounts of toxic gas sounds pretty uncomfortable to me. Those are just two of the many violations we're gonna uncover here at Smithfield Saloon by walking around with a copy of OSHA standards and inspecting everything. I've curated 5 categories of violations that encompass everything related to a Western saloon. Number 1, surfaces. This has everything to do with floors, stairs, walls. What condition are they in? Number 2, food safety. We're gonna look at food storage and check the efficacy of the food handling. Number 3, fire safety. Is the saloon equipped and or prepared for a flammable event? Number 4, environmental hazards. Does the saloon have proper ventilation or pest control? And number 5, bathroom hygiene. What is the bathroom policy and how clean is said bathroom? Once we've thoroughly inspected each category, we're gonna add up every violation and calculate how expensive the total OSHA fine would be. Every violation carries a penalty of up to $16,550, so this may get really expensive. Starting at the front entrance, the first thing a guest steps on are these stairs, and it's already a violation. Stairs have uniform riser heights and tread depths between landings. Just from a simple eye test, we can see that these are not uniform in the slightest. It's flimsy, decaying, and I can almost guarantee you that people trip over this lip all the time. I'd be surprised if 2 people could even stand on these stairs at the same time, which is also a violation. Each stair can support at least 5 times the normal anticipated live load. And even if, by some miracle, you do make it up these steps, you'll be greeted with a layer of mud and even more sketchy floorboards. Walking working surfaces are maintained free of hazards such as sharp or protruding objects, loose boards, corrosion, leaks, spills, snow, and ice. Look, okay, I get it. You're located in the middle of town where the road is just a mud pit, but prime location comes with higher standards. This is not an excuse though, and the penalties this saloon will receive can hopefully serve as a wake-up call. Walking working surfaces are inspected regularly and as necessary and maintained in a safe condition. None of this front entrance is safe and clearly hasn't been inspected in a long time. Not a great first impression. I'm kind of disappointed. Moving along to the back, we have one of the most egregious woodworking and construction jobs I've ever seen. Look at the random wood planks, the literal holes cut in the floorboards, and the broken railing. Hazardous working conditions on walking working surfaces are corrected or repaired before an employee uses the walking working surfaces again. Nobody, and I mean nobody, not even me, has any business being up here, and I can't believe nothing has been guarded off. I'm not even worried about this being clean. It's dangerous to even be around this monstrosity. It could come tumbling down at any moment. To facilitate cleaning, every floor, working place, and passageway shall be kept free from protruding nails, splinters, loose boards, and unnecessary holes and openings. This is scary. We haven't even entered the building and we're already racking up the penalties. With that being said, let's see if we can safely move inside. Smithfield Saloon is the most saloon-looking saloon ever. You've got your piano, bar, card games, tables, a barber, and private rooms upstairs. If I wasn't an OSHA inspector, I'd say this saloon looks pretty good. But then I looked down. Blood, sweat, and tears may be good for the grind, but not stained on the floor at your saloon. All places of employment, passageways, storerooms, service rooms, and walking working surfaces are kept in a clean, orderly, and sanitary condition. There is nothing sanitary about walking through someone's bloodstains. You either need a deep clean or just replace the entire floorboards. All sweepings, solid or liquid wastes, refuse, and garbage shall be removed in such a manner as to avoid creating a menace to health. Nothing about any of these areas is sanitary. I don't think these tables have ever been cleaned, and the rips and chips in the walls sure are hazardous. And cool, you have an employee sweeping, but that's not going to help the really dirty spots. And finally, to round off this disgusting category, we have a generic clause that encompasses everything we've seen. Each employer shall furnish to each of his employees a place free from recognized hazards that are causing or likely to cause death or serious physical harm to employees. The existence of this saloon and the fact that it's open for business violates this clause, full stop. This brings our surface violation number to 9. Let's move on to food safety. Food safety is going to be a trickier category because we don't have all the information we'll need, but we're going to try our best. For example, Smithfield Saloon doesn't have a kitchen or any sort of food preparation area, yet you can buy and eat food here. Even if you get a mod and enter the blocked off doors, you'll find nothing. So where is the food coming from? Since Valentine is a livestock town, it could make sense that all of the meats are sourced and processed locally, as in, like, right here. Is there a butcher, a shop, or a kitchen that we can find that could be bringing the food to this saloon? Let's go investigate. I looked around the stables and was having a hard time finding anything until I stumbled upon this butcher. That's when I realized I was having so much trouble finding him because he was using a virtual private network. Welcome to today's sponsor, NordVPN, where you can become safer online with a single click. As an inspector who does a lot of traveling, I can stream my home subscriptions securely from anywhere, stay safe on public Wi-Fi, and protect up to 10 devices under one account with apps for all major platforms. Sometimes when I leave a bad saloon review, I like to turn on Kill Switch to make sure my data is never exposed by accident. That would be bad. And even if I did have a problem, I could reach out to the 24/7 customer support to help whenever I get into a pinch. In all seriousness, I've been using NordVPN for years now with my own money, and I can say for certainty that Nord is the fastest, most reliable, and privacy-oriented VPN on the market, and I'm still using it every single day. So what I want you to do is give it a chance. You can literally try it risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Go to nordvpn.com/Zaldeyy for big savings and an extra 4 months on a 2-year plan. Thank you so much to NordVPN for sponsoring today's inspection. Let's get back to it. So this butcher is preparing similar meats to what you can find at the saloon. So I don't think it would be far-fetched to say that this is where the food originates. Pretty cool. However, the unfortunate thing is that even if the food is here, it would still be a violation because of how dirty the saloon is. Sanitary storage. No food or beverages shall be stored in toilet rooms or in an area exposed to a toxic material. Now, toxic material can be taken in multiple different ways. The way I see it, if you have blood and other bodily fluids on the ground, there's no way that place can be sanitary, which means anytime food is brought inside the saloon, it instantly becomes contaminated with whatever is swimming around in the air. Another issue is that this saloon doesn't have any running water or water that is safe for human consumption, also known as potable water. Potable water shall be provided in all places of employment. I did find a bin of dishes, but one, they were still dirty, and two, there was no water by them. And if there's no water readily available, that means this bartender can't wash his hands. So even if the food is cooked and prepped off-site, this man still has to touch it, which is a huge violation. Food handling. All employee food service facilities and operations shall be carried out in accordance with sound hygienic principles. Even after all of this contamination, let's say you do get your delicious meal. Where's the trash can or waste receptacle? There isn't one spot inside or out of this entire saloon that's fitted with a trash can. And what's even crazier is that it doesn't even need to be a can. It could be a barrel or a box. As long as it has a lid, according to OSHA, it'll be fine. But no, there's nothing. Receptacles constructed of smooth, corrosion-resistant, easily cleanable, or disposable materials shall be provided and used for the disposal of waste food. The moral of the story is that food safety is not a priority at Smithfield Saloon. In fact, it seems as though there's been no thought given to it. Final violation count 4. Word of advice, don't eat here. Maybe just go straight to the butcher. Let's pretend here for a second. Let's go through what would happen if a fire really broke out at Smithfield Saloon. Maybe a gunfight happened, maybe a cigarette wasn't stomped out, or someone kicked a candle. Whatever it was, what's the first thing that should happen if a fire breaks out? Any guesses? An alarm should go off. An employee alarm system must be operable. Employers must install and maintain an operable employee alarm system that has a distinctive signal to warn employees of fire or other emergencies. So we need to walk around and find evidence of any sort of fire alarm system. But what exactly are we looking for? The first thing we can look for is a fire call box invented in 1852 by Dr. William Channing and Moses Farmer. The alarm consisted of 2 boxes, one at the home or business, while the other was placed at a central alarm station. If a fire was noticed, the person would have to reach in the box and crank the handle to send an alert to the central station. Pretty cool, but not the most effective method, nor could I find any evidence of one at the saloon anyways. Thankfully, by 1890, the first electrical fire alarm was created by Francis Robbins Upton, but the system wouldn't reach a wider audience until Confederate John Gamewell got his grubby little paws on it. All that to say, I couldn't find one singular attempt at a fire alarm system here, no bells to ring, no telegram boxes, and no Gamewell system. This is a massive violation and a huge risk considering the entire saloon is made out of wood. Depending on the size of the fire, the second step would be to locate a fire extinguisher. The employer shall provide portable fire extinguishers and shall mount, locate, and identify them so that they are readily accessible to employees without subjecting the employees to possible injury. The most advanced portable fire extinguishing system for 1907 was the chemical foam extinguisher invented by Alexander Loran in Russia. It looks fairly close to what we have today. However, after looking around at the walls, the bar, in rooms, and even outside, I couldn't find any sign of an extinguisher. And considering the fact that it was invented in Russia, Amazon Prime did not exist, so they probably wouldn't have been able to get one anyways. But not all hope is lost, because the second type of extinguisher we can look for is called a fire grenade. These glass grenade balls were originally just filled with salt water until 1900, when they moved to filling them with carbon tetrachloride, which stays a liquid at room temperature, but becomes a gas when heated past 76 degrees Celsius. The gas has a higher density than air, so when thrown and cracked, the gas sinks to the ground and helps smother the flames. Pretty cool, but unfortunately, after looking around, I found no signs of a fire grenade either. Truth is, even if we did find one, it wouldn't have mattered. The employer shall not provide or make available in the workplace portable fire extinguishers using carbon tetrachloride. Damn, they clocked me. I won't be counting that violation against the inspection because we didn't find them, but it's good information to know. And while it's kind of sad that we didn't, I'm slightly okay with it because exposure to high concentrations of carbon tet damages the nervous system and internal organs. However, we do have one last attempt at snuffing this fire out. Sprinklers. Yeah, that's all it says. Sprinklers have been around since the 1850s, but in one fell swoop, OSHA has banned any potential sprinkler this saloon has to offer because of age. The employer shall assure that only approved sprinklers are used on systems. Nothing at our disposal back in the early 1900s was approved. Shocker. So essentially for the saloon, it's water buckets or nothing because there are no extinguishers or sprinklers that are OSHA compliant. I looked around for any sort of central water trough meant for fires, but I seriously couldn't find anything. So that leaves us to step 3 in this fire scenario, and that would be to exit the building. But what exactly are the exit procedures? The saloon has 4 entry and exit points, but only 3 qualify because the upstairs is non-compliant according to 1910.37 Section A, Paragraph 2. Exit routes must be arranged so that employees will not have to travel toward a high hazard area. The upstairs door leads to the outside death trap from hell, so that exit won't be counted and it will be a violation. But the 3 downstairs doorways are solid. Nothing is blocking the path, and even at night they are properly illuminated with lanterns. Each exit route must be adequately lighted so that an employee with normal vision can see along the exit route. With that being said, they are not marked with an exit sign. Each exit must be clearly visible and marked by a sign reading exit. The simple solution here would be to just get some white paint and literally write out exit. But since there's nothing to see, that is a violation. If the direction of travel to the exit or exit discharge is not immediately apparent, signs must be posted along the exit access indicating the direction of travel to the nearest exit. So to me, it's fairly obvious where the downstairs exits are. However, there are multiple doors in the back, and when combined with inebriation, it could cause trouble. So I'm going to mark this one against the saloon because there's no exit indications anywhere. Hopefully everyone is out of the building by this point, and the last round of defense would be the chance of fire retardant paint. The fire retardant properties of paints or solutions must be maintained. Fire retardant paints or solutions must be renewed as often as necessary to maintain their fire retardant properties. So intumescent paint or fireproof paint was not invented until the 1930s, so that's tough. Safeguards designed to protect employees during an emergency must be in proper working order at all times. And the cake topper is that there is no written fire plan. Written and oral fire prevention plans. A fire prevention plan must be in writing. However, an employer with 10 or fewer employees may communicate the plan orally to employees. Now I know what you may be thinking. Oh, this saloon has like 2 employees max. Maybe they really did say it orally, but as we'll come to find out later, this saloon has way more employees than you may think, so it's still valid. The fire safety category is a huge blow with a whopping 10 violations. Let's move on to the next category. Environmental hazards have everything to do with air quality and ventilation, as well as pests like bugs or rats. That furnace from earlier didn't just point out a fatal flaw in this pipe system, but it made me aware of the fact that there was no ventilation system at all. This is a huge problem because guests can smoke and are even encouraged to do so. If you look behind the bar, you can find cigars for sale. If you've ever been to a cigar bar or a smoking bar in real life, you'd know that the ventilation systems are extremely important. Yeah, the business still stinks, and I'm sure the hole in the wall that you go to has terrible ventilation systems, but the only type of ventilation this saloon gets is truly through the main door because it's one of those old Western swing doors. But that also poses a new problem. Smoke isn't the only floating specimen that we have to worry about. It's the Wild West after all. Dust and pests are also a huge problem. Dust collector, a device or combination of devices for separating dust from the air, handled by an exhaust ventilation system. And vermin control. Every enclosed workspace shall be constructed, equipped, and maintained so far as reasonably practicable as to prevent the entrance or harborage of rodents, insects, and other vermin. It's literally impossible to keep rats, bugs, or any other critters out because the front door doesn't fully block it off. To become OSHA compliant with environmental hazards, this saloon needs to create a ventilation and air exhaust system, and it needs to find a way to close the front door. If that's not possible, at least invest in some rat traps, bug spray, and maybe one of those small metal fans that weighs 40 pounds. Including the furnace violations, that brings our environmental hazards total to 4. At Smithfield Saloon, there isn't a bathroom. All we have is this doorless outhouse, which already violates a regulation. Each water closet shall occupy a separate compartment with a door and walls or partitions between fixtures sufficiently high to assure privacy. Now, the language here is interesting. For those of you unaware, like I was before this video, a water closet is defined as a room with a flushable toilet with plumbing, which means this outhouse doesn't even qualify as a water closet. And right next to the outhouse is a trough of water. While this is probably meant for animals, I've seen plenty of people using it to drink from, which means this could technically pass for a sink in a gross way. However, it's the things that go with a sink that cause the violations. Each lavatory shall be provided with hot and cold running water or tepid running water. This is not running water, and the outhouse is not a lavatory either. Hand soap or similar cleansing agents shall be provided. There is no soap. Individual hand towels or sections thereof of cloth or paper, air blowers, or clean individual sections of continuous cloth toweling convenient to the lavatories shall be provided. Basically, there's no way to dry your hands other than the old shake method or the old wipe it on your pants and shirt method. And finally, general. Washing facilities shall be maintained in a sanitary condition. None of this is even remotely sanitary, and along with that, the outhouse hasn't even been cleaned out at all. There's no telling when the last time it was cleaned. The sewage disposal method shall not endanger the health of employees. If this stew and pot of whatever's in there in the hot sun isn't a danger to the health of the employees, then I don't know what is. Now, this last regulation gets a bit complicated because it has to do with the number of employees and the gender of them. But first things first, the question we need to answer is how many employees does Smithfield Saloon have? Obviously, we know that the bartender is an employee and a male. I don't want to assume, but for now I have to. The wrinkled shirt tipped me off. We also have another male employee who sweeps and plays the piano from time to time. And finally, there is a barber in the back. I wasn't originally going to count him, as it seems as though he may just be renting the space and the business is his own, but since he's under this roof, he's in my jurisdiction today. That brings our total male employee count to 3. However, there are a myriad of sex workers that work in the saloon. Are they included as employees? Up until 1915, prostitution was legal and widely unregulated. The old Western prostitutes were often referred to as soiled doves or painted ladies. I'm gonna call them painted ladies from now on because it sounds a bit nicer than soiled doves. That's crazy. However, the women were paid for services conducted, so to me, I'm gonna say they are employed. Now, we need to figure out how many painted ladies actually work at Smithfield Saloon. So I spent a full day and night cycle to make sure I wasn't missing anyone who does shift work, and that brought our painted lady count to 11, and our final Smithfield Saloon employee count to 14. Toilet facilities. And toilet rooms separate for each sex shall be provided in all places of employment in accordance with table J1 of this section. So if we look at this table, we can see that this saloon barely, and I mean barely, by one employee squeaked by without needing a second bathroom. It's still going to count as a violation because the outhouse isn't legally a bathroom, nor does it separate the employees by sex. The bathroom situation at Smithfield Saloon is completely undesirable and disgusting. Our final count for bathroom violations is 7. I'm very sorry if that's where you're having to do your business. Maybe it would be worth it to go across the street and see if they got an indoors bathroom. Now it's time to get our final violation count and see just how expensive this fine is gonna be. So, the final OSHA violation count for Smithfield Saloon is a whopping 34, and with a maximum fine of up to $16,500. $550 for each. That brings the final OSHA fine to $562,700. Oh my god, that makes me sick. Or $16,319.10 if you're living in 1907, adjusted for inflation. Next time you're at Smithfield Saloon, remember to watch where you step and maybe wear a mask or two. Hopefully some change will be implemented, but I highly doubt it. My name is Zaldeyy. Thank you so much for coming along on this journey. I'll see you again soon. See ya.